Hey guys, welcome back. As you might have worked out, I really enjoy painting Trench Crusade models, but more than that, I really enjoy painting them up to match the artwork style. And for whatever reason, some of the models just don't live up to the artwork. And one example of this, in my opinion, would be the Artillery Witch. And it's not that I hate the official model, I just feel that the additional flames on the bomb give it more of a cartoony look rather than a Grimdark look. So for that reason I wasn't really motivated to paint the model. That was until I found this absolutely incredible STL that not only matches the artwork style, but is also an enormous 36 centimeters tall as well. And I have to say that it was really easy to print and assemble, and you could easily scale this model down to suit your needs as well. But once assembled, it was absolutely enormous, and certainly not for the faint of heart. But I've painted up a few of these large-scale models before, so I'm up for the challenge. And the first part of the process was to get the entire model primed in some black primer, before then beginning the painting process. I firstly decided to tackle all of the metallics, which is going to be on the helmet, and on the chest plate, and also on some of the trim around the cloak as well. And I'm just going to be using a dry brush to apply the metallics, using the Army Painter heavy metal and gunmetal combination. Firstly dry brushing the heavy metal onto all of these areas, using downward strokes where possible. And then just coming in with the gunmetal with a slightly lighter dry brush and more focused towards the upper highlight points. And this should produce a really nice and quick and easy dark steel, which I'll enhance a little bit later on with some shade. Next I decided to tackle all of the cloak and cloth areas, and to do that I used a combination of 3 of the darkest colours from the Army Painter blacks and greys triad, starting off with the darkest colour, which was the ironclad grey, and using this to base coat the majority of these areas, apart from all of the deepest of recesses. And by using the airbrush to apply these colours, I can cover large surface areas fast, while achieving smooth blends throughout the process. And from there I just work my way up through the lighter colours, covering slightly less surface area each time I move up in brightness, so that the previous colour is still visible underneath the current colour. And then when it comes to the lightest colour, just making sure I'm only applying a very small amount of this to all of the very highest highlight points. And throughout this process of painting up the cloak, I did overspray onto some of the silver that I painted in the previous step, but that'll be easy enough just to brush back in after this step. I then just went back in with a brush to re-establish all of the metallics that had been oversprayed with the grey. and then used the same Army Painter gunmetal to paint in all of the stitching and buttons that are on the edges of the cloak. And then just went in with some Army Painter Emperor Gold and gave all of the buttons a quick coat in this. And this is another one of the colours from the John Blanche set, and if you don't have access to it, you can just take some of the Army Painter Greedy Gold and add some black to it, or just use any dark gold that you have, and that should be good enough. And to tone down the shine in all of these new metallics that I've just painted in, I'm going to give them a quick coat of some Army Painter Dark Tone, which will not only take away a little bit of that shine, but also add a little bit more contrast and depth to these parts as well. Next, it was time to tackle the ruff around the neck, and you might be inclined to think with all these folds that this could be a little bit of a nightmare to paint, but actually it's a dry brusher's wet dream, as all of these uniform folds throughout the ruff make it really easy to go in with a dry brush and really quickly highlight everything. And I'm just going to use 3 of the colours from the Army Painter Warm Greys and Whites triad, and just slowly build it up by giving it a fairly heavy dry brush of the darkest colour. And then just moving on to the lighter colours and applying less pressure with the dry brush and applying less paint, and working it over a smaller surface area. And with the final colour, I just want to come in really lightly and catch all of the top edges. And it's fairly difficult to mess this up, and in the end it should be really nicely highlighted. Next it was time to paint up the artillery or the bomb, and for that I used another one of the John Blanche colours, which was the Blighted Green, which is supposed to be one of the darkest greens in the range, but as I wanted to keep this model really nice and dark to match the artwork, I went ahead and mixed this in 50-50 with some black, and then just came in with an airbrush and applied this in a zenithal style fashion by spraying it from above and at 45 degrees, and this should give the perfect dark green base coat. I'm then just going to come in again with the airbrush, but this time with the Blighted Green on its own, and applying it in the same fashion, only this time trying to cover a slightly smaller surface area. And to finish off, I just go in with the next lightest colour in the same triad, which is Angel Green, and just use this to apply a very light and quick dry brush over all of the raised edges on the emblem on the front of the bomb, and to catch all of the other raised edges across the surface. Now that all parts of the model had been painted up, I wanted to add that extra grimdark touch by using some Villainy Inks Decrepit Filth. The model is looking good at the moment, but to match the artwork I want to really darken every part of the model, and this Decrepit Filth should help to achieve that, along with adding a little bit of dirt and grime into all of the recesses as well. And you could pretty much use any dark brown or black oil or enamel or acrylic wash Just keep in mind that if you're using an acrylic rather than an enamel, the process will be slightly different, as it isn't workable with white spirits. And for this application of Decrepit Filth, I did dilute it down 1:1 with some white spirits, just to make sure that it flowed really well and could cover the large surface areas on this huge model. And then I allowed it to dry for about 30 minutes and came in and just applied the normal removal pass by coming in with a large makeup sponge, slightly dampened with some white spirits, and just use this to mop up all of the excess enamel wash and remove it from all of the upward facing and highlight areas. And after that was fully dried, the model was now complete and ready to be assembled. And all in all, I'm pretty happy with the way the model turned out. I think I got pretty close to nailing the style of the original artwork. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. And hopefully I should have some more interesting Trench Crusade videos coming for you later on in the month, along with some 40k and maybe some Warhammer Old World as well. But as always, thanks for watching, and a big thank you to all of my Patreon subscribers, and I'll see you in the next one.